Hello there friends, it's Nick. I'm going to talk about project planning and how I think about projects because, well, just in case it might help you and it might make you feel a bit more normal, because I think there's a sort of a sickness at the heart of project planning, and it exists in Gantt charts and those kind of flow charts and things. When I used to work at IBM back in the mid-90s, I would use Microsoft Project, and we were doing quite big projects, quite big rollouts, and you had to kind of show that everything was on course, and this was the way you did it. You kind of created this Gantt chart, but it was a bit like business plans for businesses, really. It's something you have to kind of tick, and you have to write your plan and have your plan, even if it doesn't really represent a good model of reality. And that was certainly the case for project plans, because almost as soon as they were done, they'd be wrong. And I certainly got to the stage where I used to think I just didn't know what I was doing. Sometimes managing creative teams and all the different things that happen, particularly when you're in an agency setting, which I was in IBM, where there's lots of different projects happening at once. Doing a project plan can feel like a waste of time, can actually be a waste of time, because really you're just filling it in to show the people upstairs. And when I started my own business later, in the early days, it didn't matter so much because we didn't have that many clients. But as we got busier, I began to think about projects in a different way, because my experience of working in the kind of the real world, if you like, is that you didn't go through the steps in order, that you went round and round in circles. Now, it's not as bad as it sounds, because the model that I kind of came up with was the plug hole model, where when water goes down a plug hole, it circles it, obviously, and it gets closer and closer, and that seemed to me to be a much more realistic sort of way to think about how projects happen. So, particularly with websites, you do, an early design pass and an early structure pass, and then you get into copy, and then you do the same thing. You go round again, and the design will get a bit closer, and the structure will get a bit closer, and the copy will get a bit closer. And it may not be as efficient as, walking straight, if you like, but it was definitely more realistic, particularly when part of that process was helping clients to understand, what was best for them. And sometimes that's an education, right? And sometimes for yourself, if I'm working for a client, helping them tell a better story, as I get immersed in their world, I'll have different ideas, So, I might start a phone call or a meeting and say, well, these are the principles that I know about and that we can apply to your business. But as we get deeper into that conversation, I'm going to have better ideas, more accurate ideas, right? So I'm sharing this in case you were feeling the way I felt in the mid-90s with your particular project. Because sometimes you have to do the Gantt chart, because plug holes don't work when you're talking to certain kinds of people. They don't work as a metaphor, and it is important that you have an idea where you are in a project, of course. But I think it's a really helpful way to think, because it kind of releases you from doing step one perfect. Because if you're on a Gantt chart and you can't get the first bit right, you're kind of stuck, aren't you, until you can get it right. Whereas with a plug hole metaphor, plug hole project, you can kind of figure, okay, I know it's not perfect, but I'm going to move on, because actually by the time I get back around this circle again, I'm going to know more. Anyway, that's the thing I'm sharing today. I don't know whether it's helpful for you. It is certainly helpful for me. And I'm thinking about Story Hacker in the same way. Some of the stuff that I've already recorded, I'm going to be recording again as I get better at understanding the kind of stuff that people need, and how best to help them. Anyway, that's it. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next video.